Welcome, everybody. Give you all a moment to get a nice, comfy seat. All right. Um, Here we have Rustasy Software with Ryan and Tara. Take it away, guys.
All right. Thanks, Will. And thank you, everybody, for taking some time to join here this morning. And thank you to ASAE for having us. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our content controller application. So my name is Ryan Pfeiffer. I'm the Director of Account Management here at Rustasy Software, working with most of our current clients. I'll kind of set things up here with a question. So as an association, we certainly understand that you care about your members and their professional development, but is your continuing education content reaching them? So today we'll talk about the easiest way to control and deliver continuing education to your members, specifically by centralizing and hosting your content in one place while distributing widely to members that across many different launching applications or remote LMSs. So I promise I won't spend a whole lot of time on this slide. I know that's somewhat frowned upon here, but I want to quickly set up who we are because I think it's going to give a little bit better context of where we fit into the e-learning world. So we are e-learning technology experts. We've been doing this for over 20 years. You might most commonly know us as the folks who provide SCORM Cloud, which is an application that is great for testing your content. But we very specifically work in this world of nerdy e-learning standards like SCORM and XAPI and helping folks and systems comply with those standards. We sit behind the scenes in hundreds of LMSs to help them launch and track content. But we also have several content distribution tools that help folks centrally host their content in one place and distribute widely amongst many different disparate systems and help keep control of licensing and intellectual property. I wanted to mention that real quick because I think it helps set up what exactly or what we are not. I do want to be clear that we are not an LMS. So we sit behind the scenes in many LMSs and across the industry, but for this specific purpose, especially, we are not an LMS, but we help do advanced things with LMSs. So you can kind of think of us as just part of the ecosystem. The graphic here sort of illustrates that your continuing education library can be made up of many different pieces of content from many different places. So whether you're creating that in authoring tools, whether you've got some off-the-shelf content, some videos, various different file types that you can include in your continuing education library, that you need to get to many different places. Maybe not all of your association members can come to your system if that's what you currently prefer, and they just want to take their content in the system that they already have. So Content Controller is an application that enables you to centralize your course library across various LMSs, distribute content to your members, and gain valuable data insights, and plan and track continuing education across LMSs, your members' LMSs, and beyond. This is also a great tool for if there's a migration happening, or if you're switching an LMS, your association member might be switching LMSs. We know that happens quite often. If your content lives in one place, it's much easier to migrate all of that stuff and not lose any of the data and the tracking that you have. So how does Content Controller work? First, we know creating and sharing and maintaining valuable and accurate continuing education with your members is very critical. But without the right tools, we know this can become pretty time consuming, pretty labor intensive. So when working with multiple learning platforms and members using different systems, sharing access to that training with your members can become complicated pretty quickly. You have to worry about whether your content is compatible. You have to worry about whether your systems can communicate. And especially if you're in a professional association that supports high compliance, for example, accurate information becomes even more critical. So we kind of talk about this hub and spoke model that's illustrated on the screen here, where again, your content lives in one place. It's centralized in Content Controller, and you're not delivering a SCORM package that has your intellectual property contained in it. You are actually sending just a proxy file. We call it a dispatch package, but essentially just a shell file that's imported into that third-party LMS and launched, where it brings the learner back to Content Controller. They don't know that they're leaving that system, but it brings the learner back to Content Controller where your content lives. They experience it there, and when exited out of, it shares the results with both the launching application and content controller so you can see usage data as well. We talk about this a lot, but it helps you meet your members where they are. So again, in that situation where all of your members or some of your members might have their own LMS already and they don't want to send their learners to a separate application, this helps accomplish that goal there. So I list out down there at the bottom the different types of content that are supported. I mentioned earlier that we're e-learning standards nerds, so we help folks comply with these standards. It supports the import of SCORM, XAPI, CMI5, AICC, PDF, MP4, MP3 files as well. And then you can export or share as whatever you're launching or whatever your member system can take. So if you've got XAPI content, but you've got a member association that can only handle SCORM files, it does not have to, your share file does not have to match what your content is published in. So it offers some flexibility there to sort of, again, meet your members where they're at. Now, how is this different from the current model? So this graphic here sort of illustrates the current model. I'll call it maybe the legacy model, where if you need to distribute content to many different systems, the older way of doing things is maybe you create a SCORM package in an authoring tool, and you share that package with many different systems. Keeping up with the licensing that you have in place can become pretty cumbersome there. And versioning as well becomes cumbersome. So this graphic sort of illustrates that if you need to version a course, whether that's a regulation change or even just a typo that you want to get corrected, the way you need to get that new version to these launching applications is to send a whole new course package. Have your association members import that into their LMS, make sure that they reassign the course to the learners, and make sure the learners know that there's a new version to be launched. You no longer have to go through that with Content Controller. You just need to update that version in one place, which is Content Controller. And the next time that learner launches the course from their third-party application, it's going to bring them to the most recently published version. So again, update in one place, that becomes extremely valuable and time saves a lot of time. Now, before I jump into a demo here, just want to kind of highlight the big sort of value points of Content Controller. I touched on some of these, but license management. So controlling and setting parameters for usage becomes much easier when you have your content living in one place. Versioning, I just kind of illustrated on the last slide there, where it becomes much easier to version in one place rather than sending new versions out to all of your customers that might have, or your association members that might have that course. Equivalence and language support. So Content Controller has a very eloquent way of supporting multi-language courses, where you can import all of those packages in each language that course is published in, distribute it as an equivalent course, and when that is launched from the third-party application, it's both going to detect what language the browser is in, but also offer the learner a drop-down of each language that is available to take the course in. And lastly, and maybe sometimes even most importantly, content analytics and reporting. So there's a very robust reporting tool that comes with Content Controller built in to allow you to see usage data, learner data, and see how your course is being consumed, and get some valuable insights into things that you may not currently have visibility into. So I'm going to jump over to another tab here so I can actually show you the application. So I'm already logged into the Content Controller application. I do want to draw your attention up to the top right-hand portion of the screen here. You'll see three main sections: accounts, content, and reports. I'm going to start with our content section. So this is where you populate your global content pool. There's a couple different ways you can do this. And actually, I should probably start by saying Content Controller is a very robust application. I cannot possibly show you every single thing that you can do in this application in a quick 10-minute demo, nor do you probably want me to. But if anybody is interested in seeing a much more detailed version of this demo, or any particular feature or functionality is interesting to you, we will encourage you to reach out directly, and we can set up time to talk through things in much more detail. I'm just going to cover the highlights today to kind of give you an idea of what can be done, and we can dig into more detail on a separate call if need be. So this is where you populate your global content pool. couple different ways you can do this. We do have some bulk feature capabilities or some bulk import capabilities via our public API. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to show you how you would import an individual course, which is pretty simple by clicking Add, Course, and then it's going to give you a pop-up of everything that we support. I've mentioned already the packaged content, SCORM, AICC, XAPI, CMI5, but we also support the import of PDF, MP3, and MP4. You'll see a second option here. Maybe you've got some content that is not in a package standard or one of these media files. Maybe it's just some proprietary content that lives on your own website, again, not packaged as SCORM. We have a feature in here called Rust-C cross domain that would allow you to tell us where that externally hosted content lives. It would require just a little bit of development work within the content to call our remote API, but tell us where that content lives and you can still distribute it through Content Controller here. So multiple options for how you can get many different types of content into the application. So all I would do is simply choose the file, figure where it's at, click import course, and it's going to populate into our content pool here. So that would be the first step to get started. I'll come back to some of the content section here in a bit. I want to next show you how to set up an account. So this is where we populate all of our association members that we would distribute content to individually as an account. Pretty simple to set one up as well. You click Add. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to say Demo Account 1. And then it gives you 3 different license types that you can set up. So this goes back to where I talked about setting parameters for usage for your content. You can set it as unlimited if you don't want to set any parameters for usage. But there's 2 different types where you can actually set parameters, where one is limit by content. So each piece of content that you deliver to an association member would have its own licensing applied to it. Or you can set it up where you limit by the entire account. So a license applies across all the content that you distribute to any particular account. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to choose that option. It will prompt you for a checkbox here that limits disable access. So if you don't want to have access disabled when they hit a particular parameter, you don't have to do that. But you have the option to cut off access as soon as they hit a limit that you've set up. I'll leave that checked for now. You can set up some notes here. Then it's going to give you an option of all the license templates that you have actually created. So you don't have to recreate licensing every single time you set one up. I'll show you quickly how to create one. If I just say license example 1, I can add some notes here. And then when I click on add limit, it's going to give you 3 options. You can limit by the number of learners that can launch a course. You can limit by the number of registrations generated, which is a unique learner ID tied to a course ID. So a learner tied to a course, or a license duration. You can actually set up more than one. If I add 100 learners and I add a duration, it's going to tell me you're adding more than one license limit. And when any one is reached, the account will hit its cap. I'll just say 365 for this one. Save, and now I've got license example 1 saved in my templates here. You can make it active right away, or you can set an effective date for the future. I'll go ahead and make it active right away. The next option is that you can set up license alerts. So this is great if you have an account management type of setup like we do here at Rust-C, where if you want somebody to create sort of a renewal moment, or you can set up somebody that is an administrator at your association member to get an alert as they are approaching their license limit, to create a renewal moment in advance to know that you're about to hit your limit that you currently have set. I'm going to uncheck that for now. It's going to just confirm everything we've set up and create an account. Oh, I've already created something with that name, which is fine. You'll see demo account 1 already set up here. All right, so we've done 2 things. We've populated our global content pool. We've set up all of our accounts. Now we have to decide which content we are going to distribute to each individual account. I'm going to go into our ASAE demo account that I've set up here. And when I click on each individual account, it'll kind of give an anatomy of everything that we currently have set up here. We don't have a ton of activity since this is new. If I go into the content section of that account, this is where you decide which content you will be distributing to them. Very simply, click Add Content, And it gives you all of the options that are currently not in their library. This would give you everything that's in your global content pool to assign to this account. When I click next, add some notes if you want. It's going to confirm that you want to add this to this account. And when I add content, it will take a few seconds here. And then the new, this all about golf that is in Spanish is now part of this content pool for this account. So we've populated our global content pool. We've set up our accounts. We've assigned a content to an account. How do you actually share content? If I go into any particular course, it's going to give me a few options. First one up here is share. So that gives you a pop-up with the drop-down menu for the options that you can share as. I'll go back to a point I made earlier. This particular course, this All About Golf course, is published as a SCORM 1.2 file. Let's assume that for the purpose of this demo, the launching application can only, or at least prefers their content to be in SCORM 2004 format. I can choose that even though the content itself is published in SCORM 1.2. So you can, again, meet your members where they're at and export the share file as the type of format that they can actually accept. When I click Get Link, it's going to give an option to download the SCORM package or just copy a link where that launching application or that member association can download the package. So all they do is import that shell file, that dispatch package into their launching application, and it will direct them back to the course where it lives here in Content Controller. Now, I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to use SCORM Cloud as my launching application. You can see in my library here, we're going to use SCORM Cloud here as our third-party LMS. I've got my All About Golf course already in my library. So I've already imported that shell file. I've already taken the course, but I'll just launch it again here. Give it a second. All right, so I've got my golf course. As you can see, it's a riveting course here. That's just an example course that we've come up with. I'm going to navigate through this. Get to the end here. Come on. My mouse is going a little bit slower. And I've got a quiz. I'm just going to answer a couple questions and exit out of it. Hopefully it will update my score correctly here in SCORM Cloud. There, it's updated to my total time of 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I've completed it. I only have a score of 27. I've not done very well. I'm going to come back to showing the reports here in a second so you can see some of those usage statistics. But to recap, we've got content in Content Controller. We've set up our accounts. We've assigned content and distributed it to our association members. How do you version a course in here? I mentioned this is a big value add, a much easier process than you normally have to go through now. If I click on any individual course here, you first can test it. You can add tags for better searchability. There's usage statistics down here as well. So you can click into each one of these and see which accounts have this course, how many in progress learners you have, how many total learners you have, whether it has equivalents or whether it's part of any bundles. Bundles are a way that you can sort of organize your content library if you bundle courses together and license them as one set. So you have some organization within your content library there as well. But if I need to version a course, I simply click on version, choose the file, document what has changed here. I'll go back to an example I gave earlier for versioning. Maybe you have a big regulation change. Maybe you have just a typo. I would document that here so you know what has changed. Click import and it's going to populate here down in your versions. As you can see, the checkbox here, the check mark notes that the current published version is version number 2. Let's assume I have just imported version number 4. If I want to publish that one, I click on the 3 dots over here, click publish, and a really cool feature that we offer is that you may have learners, it's going to prompt you to say that you may have learners in progress. Should they be required to restart this new version, or should they maintain their progress on the previous version? That example I just gave, a regulation change. That's probably a scenario where in progress learners are taking a course that no longer applies and you want them to start fresh. If you find a typo and nothing else has really changed there, probably a scenario where they can maintain their progress and just continue on with the course and not have to start over. So you've got some options there. I'll just choose to maintain progress. And then when I click OK, I would need to actually refresh this screen, but it would have your course number, your version number 4 as the published course at that time. And again, that's all you have to do to version a course in Content Controller. Anybody that has this distributed to them in their third-party applications, those learners will now come to the most recent published version of that course. All right. So now that we've shown how to populate content, how to distribute content, how to version a course, let's jump over to the reports. Now, I'll mention here up front, this is a very robust reporting section. I'll never be able to show you everything that it can actually report on, but you can see, you kind of maybe get an idea here on the left-hand side of the different types of reports that are offered. So license management, this allows you a snapshot into all of your accounts and how they're tracking towards the licenses that you have set up. So it'll show if one is actually exceeded their limit or expired, if it's past expiration date, and again, how everybody is tracking towards that. Limit by content is the same. It'll show the account and each individual course that they have and how they're tracking towards that. Content usage. So this is going to give you sort of an overview of how your courses are being utilized, how many learners, how many accounts they have. Equivalence is kind of the same thing there. Course activity. I want to spend some time on this because this allows you to dig into learner detail on courses. So if I click on learner and select the account of Acme Inc., and I'm going to use our example that we've been using for our All About Golf course, and it's going to give me all kinds of data for completion results, satisfaction, average score, and then each individual learner that has taken this course and their whether they passed, their score, the time. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom here, you'll see the course that I just launched is completed. I failed. I have a score of 0, and my time has not quite. Looks like our demo site has not quite updated for my newest launch here, but it will show all of the details for the learners that have taken this course. Now you'll see a shared section here. Each one of these reports that are available in the application are shareable externally. There's 2 options. Either you can export a CSV and share that with your association members, or there's a link that you can provide them. The link is not going to give them access to Content Controller. It will just give them a sort of a real-time peek into that report in real time as it updates. So there's 2 different ways to share. Again, export a CSV or give them a link that will give them a real-time peek into the report that you're sharing. All right, so that is kind of the highlights for setting up accounts, setting up content, versioning, the reports that are available. I want to pop back over to my slide deck here. If you don't believe me, take it from some of our association members. So we've been working with the ASCPA for many years now. They've been able to document hundreds of hours that are saved, automating thousands of courses, and it now allows us to prioritize and update new courses and driving increased revenue. We've done a great case study with them. Loma, we've done a case study with them as well, that they were able to, it's that situation where their members did not want to have to come to a new system with another login to experience content. They wanted that content in their system. So they want what's in the box. They don't want another platform. So it's been very helpful for them as well. Content Controller does continue to evolve. So there's a couple features in here that I didn't have time to demo, but we can set up another time to look at more detailed. But Content Portal is a new feature that is more of a self-service portal that would allow your member associations to sort of download their the packages and courses that they want without you having to send them to them. So you can set up an individual self-service portal for each one of your member associations, tell them what content is available, the export type that's available, and allow them to come in and download that on their own. Lead-in pages are custom content if you want to add some custom content before a course is launched. So maybe some terms and conditions, a pre-test, or some sort of data collection. You have that capability. And then launcher links are a feature that we added based on the request that there may not always be an LMS or somewhere to launch a course. launcher links give you the ability to just post a link, maybe to a SharePoint site, a training portal, a community board, whatever it might be, but just post a link to a course that lives in Content Controller rather than having to export the shell package. All right. I want to leave plenty of questions time for questions and answers. So I believe we've got about 5 minutes left here, if I'm looking at the time correctly. Let's see. I know Tara, I think you've been answering some questions here in the chat. Sorry, I'm scrolling through here to see if we've missed anything. And Tara, if you want to specifically call anything out, if you're able to, that we haven't yet answered, feel free to do so.
Yeah, we've answered it on the chat, but feel free to add any other color to the answer too. So we've had a few from Colleen here. It's just kind of how the proxy files work. I think in particular, yeah, if you want to explain that a little bit more, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the proxy file is again, it's your customer I'll say your association member that has the third-party application, they will not know that it is a different sort of SCORM package. So the proxy file is just it's still going to be however. I'll use SCORM 1.2 as an example. If you export as SCORM 1.2, it's just going to be a small SCORM 1.2, I think it's 12 kilobyte package that doesn't have your intellectual property contained inside. So it won't be the full SCORM package that you would get out of, say, the authoring tool. That will live in Content Controller. The shell package, the proxy file, will still be a SCORM 1.2 file that they can import into their launching application, their LMS, just as if it were any other course. The only thing that happens is that, again, the learner doesn't really know that this is happening, but when they launch from that third-party application, it's essentially going to redirect them back to Content Controller where they experience the course. So it's really no different to your member associations, or really no different to any launching application, third-party application. It's just sort of a cheater file that just has a URL inside that directs them back to where the content actually lives, but allows you to hold on to that intellectual property. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and we've just got a new one come in too from Monica here. So if we have our own LMS where we're posting SCORMs, what's the best practice? Are we going to manage all of our content in Content Controller, or still be loading it into our LMS and then only using Content Controller for customer licensing?
Yeah, it's a great question, Monica. So it really kind of depends on how centralized you want your library to be. We do have several customers that centralize their library in Content Controller, but they also have an internal LMS and external customers. So sorry, I talk with my hands a lot here. So they use it as a centrally hosted platform where their content lives, and they only have to manage one library. They dispatch into their internal system and to all of their external customers. So that is a way that you can accomplish having one library in one place. We do have some customers that don't do that. They simply use Content Controller for their external customers only, and then they have their internal LMS where they manage the library in a separate place for their direct customers as well. So it's really kind of up to you, but Content Controller does offer that ability to centralize in one place and distribute to any system, whether it's internal or external.
Great. Well, hopefully we answered your question for you, Monica. And we've got a couple different setups you could kind of serve for your customers too. So sounds good. And let's see here. We did have one follow-up question for Colleen. And so again, she's got a final exam and the SCORM package with the course content. And so she was kind of thinking about, okay, should this be a separate content that's deployed? Or again, I know you went over kind of third party with bundling too. So yeah, I know we have a couple different ways we can do things, but I don't know if there's anything else to expand on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't know that I would recommend one way or the other. So yes, you can absolutely have an exam as part of your SCORM course, if that's if that's how it's been authored. If you want it separate and it to be two separate courses, you can certainly do that. It would be recognized if it's two separate packages. It would be recognized as separate courses in Content Controller, and you could bundle those together and put a license parameter around that bundle. So really, that's going to be kind of your personal preference, is if you want it to actually be part of the course, or if you want it to be a separate course to be launched separately. So I don't know if that's a great answer, and I apologize for that, Colleen. It's really kind of up to you whether you want to do it one way or the other. But we support both.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at time. So again, always appreciate people with questions. If you want to talk more about your unique scenario, you can hit us up at info@restofcsoftware.com. But yeah, any other final call outs for you, Ryan, here before we wrap things up?
I don't think so. I really appreciate everybody's time and joining today. And again, thanks to the ASAE for having us. But yeah, reach out if you have any other questions. If you go to our website, you'll see a tagline that says, "Ask us anything." We certainly mean that. And yeah, if we can help with anything, please let us know. Thanks again.